Hello, my name is Zach Lundowski. Welcome to Boneheaded Sports Podcast. Good morning, good afternoon, whatever it is. I hope you're having a good and amazing day. Um, Today we're gonna be recapping Week 2 of the NFL and um, previewing Thursday Night Football. So before we get started, make sure that you check us out on YouTube, TikTok, Twitter. We're on iTunes and Spotify. Share us with people, subscribe. If you like it, recommend it to friends. Trying to grow, you know how it be. And let's just get right into it. So the New York Jets defeated the Cleveland Browns 31 to 30. Now, all before I get started, all of this, the Browns would have won this game if Nick Chubb just went down. But I'm not going to put the entirety of the blame on Nick Chubb because, yes, the defense and special teams both, on top of Nick Chubb, fumbled the bag. The Browns should, this is a historic comeback by the Jets. The Browns should have won 10 out of 10 times, but who knows? Like, this is the NFL, stuff like this happens. And Joe Flacco looked really good in that second. Like, he played well. They just, like, scored and then did the onside kick. And I'm like, whoa, they're kicking off already? Because, like, they just scored and, like, got the ball, scored again. And Jacoby Brissett had a chance to put them in field goal range, and then he threw a boneheaded interception, as the name of my podcast would deem. Um, Really, really devastating for Browns fans. Jets fans probably are like excited, but you wish Zach Wilson was in instead of Joe Flacco. But Joe Flacco's playing really well. He's one of the leaders in passing yards in the NFL right now. Um, and the Browns really, I don't know where they go from here. They got really lucky week 1 with a 58-yard field goal, and then they blow a 13, what was it? 13, it was 30 to 17. So they blow a 13-point lead in a minute and like what, some change? And you just can't do that. Sorry, give me 1 second. But overall, the Browns played well until that point in the game. Um, but I do want to talk about Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson had 8 receptions, 102 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He looked really phenomenal in this game. Brees Hall looked good. Um, Garrett Wilson playing really well these past 2 weeks, week 1 and week 2. He played pretty good last week. It was a rough start to the season. Like, he played decently, and then this game he played really well. Um, 8 catches for 102 yards looked really good. One of the better rookie wide receivers that we've seen so far. And also, congrats to the Jets for pulling this out, and I'm all for the downfall of the Browns because of them having Deshaun Watson on their team. Now on to the next game. Commanders at Lions. So I didn't really watch this game, so I can't really give my overall opinion on it, but what I can tell by looking at the highlights and the stat sheet is that Amon-Ra St. Brown is him. He is him. Um, he had 2 carries for 68 yards and 9 receptions for 116 yards and 2 touchdowns. So overall, I believe that's 184 yards total, and he is that Lions offense. He's taking that number 1 wide receiver spot, and he is unbelievably talented. And Jared Goff played well. Carson Wentz actually played pretty well. Like, the Commanders were in this game in the second half because the Lions' offense started to stutter a little bit, but eventually the Lions closed it out in the fourth with a touchdown and just got a little bit out of reach. Now, my main concerns with this game is that DeAndre Swift only had 5 carries. If he's averaging, he had 5 carries for 56 yards. If he's averaging 11.2 yards per carry, why only give it to him 5 times and give it to Jamal Williams 12? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Um, but their defense looked good. Aiden Hutchinson had 3 sacks. Really good week from him. Week one was a bit iffy to get started, but 3 sacks in a game is nothing to slight at. Good job, Aiden Hutchinson. And on to the Commander side, Curtis Samuel was back. He played really well. Terry McLaurin was good. Jahan Dotson was good. The Washington team, their offense isn't the issue, in my opinion. It's their defense. I mean, their defense didn't really do them any favors in this game. If their offense score looks good. They have weapons. Their Carson Wentz isn't horrible. They have above average running backs, above average offensive line, but their defense, we'll see when Chase Young comes back what it is, but really suspect Commanders. Good for the Lions. They play the Vikings next week, so let's see what they look like because the Vikings just lost to the Eagles. We'll get to that later, but I believe that the Lions could challenge the Vikings. Because of I don't know what it was about Monday night, but the Vikings did not look good. Or at least Kirk Cousins didn't look good at all. But good win for Detroit. Dan Campbell really liking what he's doing with this team. They look really competitive, really good. They hung in there with. They only lost to 3 by the Eagles. They almost won that game. They beat the Commanders pretty easily. I wouldn't say easily, but like they had from like the first quarter, they were basic after the first half, they were basically gliding to the win because they went up 22-0 at halftime, and then basically put on cruise control, and went through the rest of the game. On to Buccaneers Saints. My concerns for the Saints. I'm concerned for the Saints. I picked them to win the division because I thought they were going to be a lot better than this. Their offense is starting to look really, really. I'm starting to get really concerned about their offense. It doesn't make. To be fair, Jameis Winston was playing on a broken back, but you have all these weapons everywhere. Your offensive line's average, and Jameis Winston is okay. Like he's okay to good, or at least I believed he was good. Um, but it looks like they just can't move the ball. Maybe the Bucks defense was just that good, but even last week against the Falcons, until the fourth quarter, they were struggling to get the ball moving until they hit like some Jarvis Landry plays, and I'm just really worried about their defense, or not their defense, their offense. Their defense looks really good, like we all predicted it would be, but their offense I thought was also going to be good, and I just don't know what's going on there. Like, I don't know what it is about maybe the scheming or the coaching, or maybe they're just not executing it correctly, but on paper it should be a lot better than what it is. Because you have Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, Jarvis Landry, Chris Olave. Like, this, those are not slouches. Like, they're all really good. Um, But I don't know what's going on with the Saints. They need to figure out what the offense is and how to fix it. And if they don't, that their season might be a little bit in trouble, honestly. Um, Now on to the Panthers Giants. The Giants win 19-6. This game was really sloppy, really defensively battled. The Giants are 2-0 for the first time in 6 years, so congrats to Giants fans. You beat the Titans, you beat the Panthers. You're 2-0 now. Daniel Jones is looking incredibly mid, nothing too special. Saquon Barkley is looking like he's back. And the Giants, your defense is looking really good. Brian Dable, amazing hire. Um, really, really good hire. It's looking like they're buying into his system and they're just buying into the culture that he's trying to set. And it's looking like the Giants have a glimmer of hope. Maybe not a long term with Daniel Jones as your quarterback, but maybe like you'll be a little bit better than you thought you would be. Sorry, I had to take a sip of water there. But on to the Panthers. They're now 0-2. Baker Mayfield that is not looking like what everyone thought he would, or at least not looking as good as I thought he would. I thought they would come out and beat the Browns week one. They probably should have beat the Browns week one if it wasn't for that air quote intentional grounding that got called. But like I never expected the Panthers to be good, but Matt Rule is on the hot seat now. Like Matt Rule, if he continues to struggle like he's doing, will probably be the first coach fired. Um, and I mean, I never really liked him as a coach, but it's now 3 years in, still no signs of progress, and like it's obviously not working. Like not something's not like working there. And Christian McCaffrey looks good, or at least last game he didn't look good, but this game he looked a little bit better. He's probably still trying to get into rhythm of things. And I don't, back to the Giants. I don't know why, but Kadarius Toney isn't getting. They're not involving him in the offense. I don't get what it is. He's obviously a good, like this really good talent, but it doesn't seem like they either trust him or he's messing up. He's maybe like a character issue. It may be like something's going on with Kadarius Toney behind the scenes that we don't know about, and he should be getting the ball more, at least being attempted to give the ball more, and it's just not happening for some reason. Now on to the Patriots Steelers. The Patriots defeated the Steelers 17-14. I didn't really watch this game. It looked really boring. It was basically a defensive battle. I heard Mitchell Trubisky is incredibly mid. Like he's not good, he's not bad, he's just okay. And I'm starting to hear a lot of Pittsburgh Steelers fans call for Kenny Pickett to come in, which if that's what they want, that's what they want. I feel like it's more of a it looks like the scheme doesn't trust Mitchell Trubisky. Like they're not taking shots downfield and they just don't trust him. Which if you're gonna go sign him, name him your number one quarterback. Like, I mean, you should trust him. And if he doesn't like if he doesn't produce, that's what I'm trying to say. If he doesn't produce, then that's when you put in Kenny Pickett, but you don't make a scheme safe for the quarterback. The quarterback should try to execute the scheme to the best of his ability. Matt Canada's offense didn't really look good last year to me with Ben Roethlisberger. Didn't really look good or hasn't really looked this good this year so far. Their offensive line looks horrible. They have weapons. They have a good running back, good receivers. And their defense is better than we thought it would be. But their O line and quarterback is where they're suffering right now, and I just don't know if they'll be able to overcome that at least this season. Maybe Kenny Pickett's gonna play at some point. The only question is really when, not if. And I don't really have much to say about the Patriots. I mean, their defense played good against the Steelers. Mitchell Trubisky, Mac Jones played okay. Like nothing too overwhelmingly positive there. But On to the next game, which I'm way more excited to talk about. We have the Colts Jaguars. The Jaguars shut out the Colts and beat them 24-0. Um, basically, Matt, I don't even know where to start. Let's start with the Colts. Um, Matt Ryan. Oh, am I worried about him? He was 16 for 30, 195 yards, 3 interceptions. Jonathan Taylor had 9 carries for 54 yards. To be fair, they were out Michael Pittman, but that's no excuse. You can't. I mean, if they lost, wouldn't be that big of a deal. But you cannot get shut out by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Um, I'm worried about this team. I thought they were gonna win the division, and now it looks they tied with the Texans. They lost to the Jaguars. I don't know what's going on. Like, they have the talent to be a good team, but is Matt Ryan just that bad this late in his career that the team is just gonna suffer? Like, you can't be throwing 3 interceptions every game, and you can't be tying to the Texans. You can't be losing to the Jaguars if you have hopes of making the playoffs, winning the division, and competing for a Super Bowl. Like, that can't happen. And all credit to the Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence, I was watching this game because I love Trevor Lawrence. I'm a believer. Um, he looked really good. He looked really comfortable. He was making great throws on the run, accurate throws. Um, out of broken down plays, he was making plays. Sorry. Um, there was this one specific play that I remember where he was kicking out to his left and he threw this absolute dart to I believe it was Marvin Jones. Like he makes accurate good throws on the run, makes good decisions. He had a couple dropped interceptions, but can't really say anything for that. But he looked good, he looked poised, he looked comfortable. The Jaguars looked better coached, and they just looked like the better team. And Christian Kirk, man, I'm not saying he's like he's like elite, but like he's definitely playing so far like he deserved that contract so far. He had 6 receptions for 78 yards and 2 touchdowns. Play like he's looks like a really he looks like maybe if he went to a different team he would have been paid less, but the Jaguars had to pay that value to get a receiver like Christian Kirk, and for 2 weeks he's looking pretty good for what they paid him, and compared to the rest of the wide receiver market. And they needed a wide receiver like him to open up the offense more, and he's doing that. Like, and their defense, Josh Allen looked good. Trayvon Walker looked okay. Their secondary looks really good. I mean, they had 3 interceptions, and just overall, this Jacksonville Jaguars team looks a lot more competitive than I thought they would be. I think that was like a year away. I thought they would be like a little bit like I thought they would be slightly competitive, but not shutting out the Colts level of like play. Like really good job on the Jacksonville Jaguars, and let's see where the Colts go from here. Um, Frank Reich, if he can't figure it out, I fear is on the seat, man. So keep your eyes on the Colts. On to the next game. The Dolphins beat the Ravens 42-38, and I'm sure everyone has already talked about seeing this. The Dolphins had a 21-point comeback in the fourth quarter. Absolutely amazing for the Dolphins. Tua had 36 for 50, 469 yards, 6 touchdowns, and the Dolphins wide receivers Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle both played amazing. Um, and what really comes down to is it looks like the speed of the Dolphins wide receiver room just over the course of the game just slowly started to outgas the Ravens secondary. Like they just looked absolutely gassed at the end of the fourth when the Dolphins were making this comeback. And I have a bit of a controversial like Tua, yes, he had a good game, but I feel like everyone needs to slow down a little bit on the narrative that he's like he's proving all of the doubters wrong. Like, yes, he had a really good game, but I've seen Mitchell Trubisky throw 6 touchdowns, and look where he is now. Like, Nick Foles has had 7 touchdowns in a game, and look where he is now. So I'm pumping the brakes a little bit. I'm not getting too ahead of myself. I want to see it against next week. I want to see it against the Bills, my team, who absolutely demolished the Texans and act like they have probably, if not the best defense in the NFL. And I want to see them go against a probably better coach team and a better quarterback, like overall a better team than the Ravens. And I want to see how they can compete with that. And now on to the Ravens. Their secondary does not look as good as advertised. Really, really doesn't. It was supposed to be this top five unit, bringing with Marlon Humphrey coming bringing in Kyle Hamilton, and it doesn't. I don't see it. It and it looks like they're like the Ravens team is just losing like 2 people every game, and I don't know how they're gonna it seems like 2 people on the Ravens get injured every game, and I don't know how they're gonna. Eventually, it seems like they're not gonna have a team. And basically, this offense, until J.K. Dobbins gets back, it looks like it's just going to be Lamar putting them on his back and trying to win every game because that's basically what he had to do here. Um, like the running backs did not look good. I mean, Kenyon Drake's fine, but let's see. Other outside of Lamar Jackson, they had like no rush. Like Lamar Jackson had 9 carries for 119 yards. And then you have Justice Hill for 3 for 16, and then Kenyon Drake 6 for 8, and then Mike Davis 5 for 4. Like, this rushing attack isn't as formidable as we thought it was gonna be, or at least until J.K. Dobbins gets back. And the Ravens just, unfortunate, you can't let this happen if you're gonna want to compete for the Super Bowl. Like, you can't have this happen. 21 points in the fourth quarter. Like, you're up 21 in the fourth quarter. You can't lose that game. Um, but good job to the Dolphins. All credit there. Their defense was. I'm questionable about their defense, but their offense looks really, really, really scary, and we'll see how they. I'm excited for that Dolphins Bills matchup next year, or not next year, next week. Next Falcons Rams. Not really much to say. We all expected the Rams to win, but the only thing I really have to say is the Falcons. Why aren't you getting Kyle Pitts involved? I'm not just saying that because he's on my fantasy team, but through the first 2 weeks, he's basically been non-existent. Like he has been nowhere to be found, and I'm just wondering why they aren't trying to get him more involved into the offense. It just seems like not the Drake London show, but it should be both of them. Like you should be making the scheming him open and to get him involved because he is that elite or perceived to be elite tight end that everyone thinks he is. He has the talent. He had 1,000 yards last year. But on his current pace, he ain't hitting that. There ain't no way. Um, the Falcons actually almost came back and won this game. It was the Rams won 31 to 7, 27, but the Falcons scored 17 points in the fourth quarter, and had a chance to win the game. But Jalen Ramsey made the ceiling interception, but it could have went the other way, in my opinion. If the receiver made a better effort to catch the ball, it could have been a touchdown. Also, on to the next game. I don't really have much to say about the Rams Falcons game. I didn't watch it. Wasn't really too interested in it. 49ers Seahawks. All I want to say is I read Trey Lance absolutely brutal. Really sucks. Um, to have your whole season ahead of you like that in week 2 and just have your season already ended at this point. Really, really brutal. But for the 49ers, they still have Jimmy G, and it looks like them keeping him around is paying off. And in my opinion, for Super Bowl sakes, Jimmy G probably gives him a better chance to win a Super Bowl this year. Um, and I mean, the Seahawks looked like we thought they would. Last season seems to be a bit of a fluke, but it's the 49ers are probably out there happy that Jimmy G is around still, and they still have a chance to be competitive and compete for a Super Bowl. Because if they didn't keep Jimmy G, their backup, who would it be? Like CJ, I don't even know who's their backup right now. Saw they were trying out AJ McCarron. Like that would be the quality of their backups. Now, on to the next game. Cowboys Bengals. Bengals. What happened? That's a TikTok reference. But how do you lose to the Cowboys with Cooper Rush? How? Like, what happened? Their Super Bowl hangover is in full effect. You sacked Cooper Rush one time. Your pass rush doesn't look good. Your offense doesn't look good. Um, and I mean, it's not Joe Burrow's fault necessarily, but their offensive line hasn't gelled together yet. So I'm not all out on the Bengals because I feel like it's going to take time for the offensive line to gel together. But my issue with the Bengals is Zach Taylor. The offense that he schemes up is very one-dimensional. Not a lot of motion. It's really, really, really basic, and it seems like teams have started to figure that out. And he hasn't adapted at all. He basically kept the same scheme, and everyone says if you didn't get better, you got worse. Like if you stayed the same, you got worse, and it looks like that's in full effect right now. Um, the Bengals have, I, the Bengals are looking, oh, they're looking rough. Their hangovers be getting. I didn't want it to happen, but I thought they were gonna be good this year, but starting off 0-2 last year, or the last year, all the teams that started 0-2 missed the playoffs, and if that in the AFC, every game matters, and starting off 0-2 is not a good way to start the year. Broncos Texans. So the Broncos beat the Texans 16-9. The Texans were actually up 9-6 at one point, but the Broncos in the fourth quarter scored 10 points and kind of sealed the game away. And the Broncos aren't looking as like the Broncos are looking really sus right now. I'm gonna be honest. They're not looking good. Um, just that is what like Russell Wilson was 14 for 31 for 219 and a touchdown. Um, like that is horrible. 14 for 31. That's less than 50%. That's like 40 something. I don't know the math. He was getting booed at the Broncos Stadium, and Nathaniel Hackett, oof, looks like a dum dum. Doesn't know how to manage the time. Um, Looking like a really, really, he's just in over his head. It just looks like he's in over his head. Um, the Texans played fine. They didn't score a touchdown. They just got 3 field goals, and not really much to say there. Like they're fine. But I'm concerned with the Broncos. But on to the next AFC West team that I'm concerned about, the Raiders. The Raiders lost to the Cardinals 29-23. And ooh, ooh, the Raiders, man, they were coming out absolutely destroying the Cardinals until halftime. And the Cardinals just didn't look good at halftime. Like it looked like this was going to be an easy cruise victory, and then come second half, the Raiders just kind of shut down. Um, they stopped being aggressive. They kind of went simple. They played it safe, and Kyler Murray just decided to absolutely take over this game, and the Raiders let him. The Cardinals scored 16 unanswered points in the fourth quarter. If the Raiders just gotten a field goal, they would have won this game, and then the Cardinals scored they fumbled six in overtime for the win. Hunter Renfro, I don't know what happened with him. He fumbled twice in like 4 plays. They were fortunate enough to get the first one back, but the second one not so fortunate as it was returned for a touchdown. And they didn't get Devontae Adams had 2 catches for 12 yards. They didn't get him involved. And it just looks like the Raiders uh, aren't going to be that good this year, or at least they're not starting off well. And I'm still worried about the Cardinals because like if they didn't win this game and the Raiders kept like their foot on the pedal, Cliff Kingsbury, even though he just got an extension, I don't think he's a good coach. And it's oof. The Cardinals still have their issues. I still don't think they're going to be that good this year. Kyler Murray doesn't. He seems checked out, and like Kyler Murray seems checked out. Cliff Kingsbury does seems like he's being carried by Kyler Murray, and their defense is still really bad. But the Raiders, I don't know what happened. You just can't let this happen, man. Now on to the Sunday night game. Bears lost to the Packers 27-10. The Bears actually started off pretty good, and then for some reason they decided to abandon the run. The Packers scored 21 in the second quarter, and then kind of just cruised the rest of the way. That Justin Fields touchdown was a touchdown. I will not. No one will convince me otherwise. His arm crossed the plane, and the ball is in his arm, so the ball crossed the plane. Um, but for the one thing that does concern me about my one takeaway is that you can run on the Packers. The Bears were running all over them all night. I mean, David Montgomery had 15 carries for 122 yards. I don't know why in the second quarter the Bears got away from the run. But what was weird is that Justin Fields only had 11 attempts. He had seven completions for 70 yards and an interception. They ran the ball 27 times and passed it 7. So they obviously don't trust Justin Fields to pass the ball a whole lot and I don't know why, but they kind of like got away from the run scheming they were doing in this first quarter because they were marching down the field really really easily, and they kind of just got away from that, and they had multiple 3-and-outs. I don't know what happened to it, but the Packers are still Aaron Rodgers still owns the Bears. Now on to Monday night. The Bills beat the Titans 41-7. Um, I unfortunately got to catch the end of the third quarter when all the backups were in, but absolutely demolishment of the Titans by the Bills. They scored 24 in the third quarter, and that it was 17-7 at halftime, kind of in reach for the Titans to kind of keep it close, but in the third quarter, the Bills just took over the game, and I hope Dane Jackson's okay. He's out of the hospital. He's doesn't seem to have any major damage, but that hit that he took was really, really scary. Um, and Stephon Diggs is him. Stephon Diggs is him. 12 receptions, 148 yards, 3 touchdowns. Absolute master. Like, Stephon Diggs is coming out this year with a vengeance, and I don't know who's going to stop him because it wasn't Jalen Ramsey, and it's not going to be anybody, in my opinion. Stephon Diggs absolutely going to go off the rest of the year. Um, and the Bills' defense looks really good. But let's talk about the Titans for a couple minutes. They had it 7-7 in the first, and then didn't really do much after that. Ryan Tannehill was Ryan Tannehill. They held Derrick Henry in check, relatively speaking. Um, Derrick Henry had 13 carries for 25 yards with an average of 1.9. Um, Not really much to say there. Their offense, the Titans' offense is looking really, really bad. They're feeling the loss of A.J. Brown, and Treylon Burks hasn't really stepped up to what they thought he would be already, and Derrick Henry just doesn't look like what he did last year. He doesn't look like he has that same step in him. He looks like he looks like his age, or he's starting to age a little bit. It's only 2 weeks into the season, so who knows? But it's not looking good for the Titans so far. They're last in their division, um, and they don't look good at all. It might be Malik Willis' season at some point if Ryan Tannehill continues to play bad. Now on to the last game of the week. We had Eagles Vikings. The Eagles beat the Vikings 24-7, and Kirk Cousins threw 3 interceptions. Justin Jefferson sold for my fantasy team. And the Eagles just absolutely had control of this game the entire time. It wasn't really close after the first half. And I thought the Vikings were going to win this game. I picked them to win. Um, I'm disappointed in them. Kirk Cousins, it's the Monday night Kirk Cousins that we all are accustomed to, and it just seemed like that was in full effect. Jalen Hurts looked absolutely amazing. Um, he looks like his passing is getting better than what it was last year, which is really good for the Eagles, and their offense is starting to look. The Eagles are looking really, really good. They're probably in my top 5 teams right now. Because their defense has really looked really good. Their offense looks very, very good, and I'm just really excited for what they're probably going to cruise away with that division. I don't think the Giants are going to stay tied with them the whole season. And man, the Vikings. I mean, I hope them. Let's see how they do against the Lions next week. Um, the winner will probably, if the winner will probably be first in the division, because of. But we'll see. We'll see. Now Thursday night football tomorrow night, because I'm recording this on Wednesday, September 21st. The Pittsburgh Steelers are traveling to Cleveland on Amazon on Prime Video, and this is a whatever game. I'm not too excited for it. Like, I'll watch it because it's football, but I'm not like too excited for it. We get to see Mitchell Trubisky on primetime. We get to see it's Mitchell Trubisky versus Jacoby Brissett on primetime. And I think it'll be like a defensive battle. It'll either be the Browns trouncing the Steelers or a very close defensive game. I don't see how the Steelers win. Their offense, oh, I don't know. I just think the Browns are better. Um, I don't know, well, because the Steelers, they beat the Bengals, and we'll just see. But that's going to do it for me this episode. Thank you all for coming out listening. This was Boneheaded Sports episode 23. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. We're on iTunes, Spotify, Twitter, TikTok. Make sure you share with your friends if you enjoyed, and you have a great day. Peace.